Aloha, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of SCEP Live Online, a production of University of Hawaii Presents, based at the University of Hawaii at Manoa Outreach College. My name is Tim Slaughter, your host for the today. I'd like to thank our sponsors, the Hawaii State Foundation on Culture and the Arts, the National Endowment for the Arts, the University of Hawaii, Kainoa Senior Services, and you, our audiences. Last week, this week, and next week, we're excited to once again present the Fall International Storytellers series in collaboration with the Hawaii Book and Music Festival. We're joined by tellers from around the world Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time. We're excited to have you join us and would love to stay in touch. So give us comments and questions through today's chat window and let us know what you're thinking. Also, if you send your email to csinfo, that's CSINFO, at hawaii.edu, you'll get notices about upcoming programs. Well, we're extremely excited to have with us today Lillian Rodrigues-Pang. Lillian is an internationally acclaimed, award-winning storyteller. Her performances intertwine the oral tradition with percussion, movement, and improvisation to captivate and transport audiences. Born in Australia to a Pipil Indian and Palestinian mother and a Portuguese father, she is a full-bodied bilingual performer. She has performed in Peru, Colombia, Barcelona, Singapore, Malaysia, Iran, Kenya, North America, and Australia, on main stages, theaters, at schools, and in community group settings. When she's not on stage, she's sharing love in the community as a connective teaching and healing artist. She has over 20 years of experience working in mental health with refugee communities and youth at risk, using storytelling to connect communities and create a stronger sense of self. So let's welcome to SCEP Live Online, Lillian Rodrigues-Pang.
Hello, everyone. It's lovely to be in Hawaii at the moment for this performance, although physically I am in Australia. And one of the things that we love to do in Australia, one of the learnings and progressions that we are having as a culture, is to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land of which we stand upon. So I would like to take a moment right now to acknowledge the Dharawal people. It's the Dharawal people who were custodians of this land for tens of thousands of years and moons and lives and loves and stories and songs before my feet had the privilege to stand here. I would like to acknowledge the elders of the past, the present, and the future. And I hope that you can take a moment to acknowledge the elders of your life, the elders of the land and the traditional owners of the land of which you are listening upon, whatever time of the day it is there. Thank you. So my name is Lillian Rodrigues-Pang. I am a mixed heritage person, very mixed as per the world at the moment. And one of the things that occurred for me, being born of a refugee mother into Australia, was that growing up I had some exposure to the Spanish language. but not that much. Mum was very busy with 4 kids, and Australia was not so into having multilingual people around them at the time. So it was very difficult to speak Spanish outside of the home. So the Spanish was something that we lost growing up, and as we went to school, and our identities became something that we had to fit in with other people. So as a part of my becoming a storyteller, I started to study Spanish and study my culture and study all these things that had been kind of there but on the edges. And I got a chance to dig deeper into language and what that means and the stories. And so I have ended up developing this bilingual and multilingual storytelling style, and delving really into the Latin stories, Latin American stories. El Salvador is a little country in just 2 countries south of Mexico, in the little central of Americas there, and it's got such a beautiful, proud heritage. This first story that I want to share with you, though, comes from Cuba, and it's one of the first stories that really made me stop and think, yeah, that's my story to tell. That's something that speaks right to me. So I hope that is a story that speaks to you as well. So here we go. Había una vez, once upon a time, there lived una familia de ratones. There was Mama Raton, Mama Mouse, Papa Raton, Papa Mouse, Hermana Raton, Sister Mouse, y Hermano Raton, Brother Mouse. Now, this one day, La Raton familia, they woke up, they looked outside, and it was a day just like today in Sydney. It was sunny, it was beautiful, the heat was just starting to bake in. And the Raton familia looked at each other and thought, let's go to la playa, huh? Let's go to the beach. So the whole Raton familia, they packed their bags. Mama, she packed a big picnic. Papa, he put in his favorite snacks. They put in their towels. They put everything into the car. They packed it out. And the whole Raton familia, they packed into the car and they started driving to the beach because, ratones do drive, yeah? They drove down to the beach. They arrived there nice and early, and they found the perfect spot to set up. They put down a big picnic blanket. It was right near a bush. They had the shade. They were comfortable. And then they did what families do at la playa, huh? They played and they ran and they kicked a football and they played with a frisbee and they swam and they ran and they played chase and they built castles with moats all around it and a great big system. And then they jumped on them and then they played and they swam some more and they played and they swam and they swam and they played and they played and they swam until they were starving. Tiene un gran hambre. Ay, ay, ay. It's like, you know what it's like when you've been at the beach and outside in the hot and they all sat down. They opened up the picnic basket and they ate everything, down to the last little crumb. Ay, and después, ay, no, a comer y no, a nadar y todo. Mamá Ratón, tengo sueño. Papa Ratón, lo mismo, ¿ya? Ay, 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 yo tengo sueño también. They were so tired. Pero hermana y mi hermana Ratón, they were not tired, no? And they say, Mama, Papa, nosotros quiero jugar. No quiero dormir. Mama Ratón. She said, okay, I know you want to play. You can play. Pero cuídense, ¿ah? Allí, en la cerca, vives el gato, the cat. Over there, near that fence. You must not go. near that fence. Hermano y hermana, por supuesto, no, of course, no, 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 no. So mamá y papá. Hermano y hermana ratón, they were playing. And you know, for the first 45 minutes, they were fine. But then, what do you think happened, huh? They were curious. You see, hermano y hermana ratón, they had not seen un gato in real life before. Look. They had learnt about it in school. Yes. They had seen them in the movies. They had seen them on TV. They had seen them in the magazines. But they had never seen un gato en realidad. They were so curious that they could not help it any longer. They crept over towards that fence. And en la cerca falta un palo. It was missing one paling. Y hermano y hermana ratón, they poked their little heads into that paling and they had a look. And fair enough, there was un gato. Uy. This gato, it was asleep on a concrete step. It was cute. A bit fluffy, a bit cute. It had pointy ears, just like them. It had whiskers, just like hermano y hermana. It had a cute little button nose, just like los ratones, huh? It had a tail, just like them. You know, el gato's not so bad, huh? Just like them. Hermano, he got an idea. He poked his little head in between the paling and he said, "Hola, gato!" ¿Y that gato? He did not move a muscle. Nada. Hey, hermano ratón, he's like, hey, this gato, yo no tengo miedo. Es lo mismo de nosotros. Eh? I'm not scared of this cat. It's the same as us. Huh? He's asleep like mom and dad. Hermana ratón, she felt a bit brave. She poked her head between that fence paling and she goes, "Hola, gato!" And the gato, it did not move a muscle. Hermano ratón, he got to be brave. Yeah. Look at this gato, eh? Yo no tengo miedo. I am not scared. So he puts his whole body in between that fence. He goes, "Hola, gato flaco. Hello, skinny cat." Nada. Hasn't moved. Hermana ratón, she does the same thing. She puts her whole body, she shows her bum, and she goes, "Hola, gato flaco, hello, skinny cat." That's so funny. What they did not see is that cat's tail twitch, and that cat's eyes blink. They were having such a good time. You know, the ratones, the hermano, he shows up again. He puts his face there, and just as he does that, the cat makes a leap for the fence, shoves its claw between the paling, and goes, "Meow!" And hermano y hermana raton, they jump back, and you know, the claws go whoosh straight past their tummy. Hermano y hermana raton look down. Hermano goes, oh, he couldn't get us. He couldn't reach. Hermana Raton, she's like, just at that moment, El Gato makes a leap for the fence. It gets its claws into the fence. It goes hit, 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 right up to the top of the very edge of the top of the fence. It looked down at los ratones and it says, meow, 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 meow. Hermano y hermana ratón, they look up and they go, ah! And they turn around and run for their lives. They're running as fast as they could. They're running. But that gato, he makes a great big leap off the fence. He's getting closer with every huge leap and bound. The gato is coming closer and closer. Hermano y hermana raton, they put on a final burst of speed. They rush through the sand. They come pushing through the bushes and they say, Mama y Papa, el gato va a comernos. The cat is coming to eat us. Now, Mama y Papa Raton, they just they look up and Papa Raton, he looks around and he goes, Gato. Enséñame el gato, ¿ah? I don't see no cat. Yo no tengo miedo de un gato. I am not afraid of a cat. And just as Papa Raton said this, El Gato leapt over the bush, landed in front of the Raton familia like this. Papa Raton, he goes, ah! And he jumps behind Mama. Hermano Raton goes, ah! And he jumps behind Mama. Hermana Raton goes, ah! And jumps behind Mama. And you know, the whole Raton familia was behind Mama. And in front of Mama is El Gato. Mama Raton, a little hot. She doesn't, she. Mama Raton, she is so brave. She takes a great big breath. She puts herself on her tippy toes. She looks at that gato. She looks at her family behind her, the only thing in between them. And Mama Raton goes, El gato looks to the left, to the right. Mama again. Gato, ay, he's sure a perro is coming to get him, a dog. El gato turns, looks and runs. Jumps back over the bush, runs all the way to his cerca, jumps back over the cerca and into his backyard because he was sure that that dog couldn't get him in his backyard. Meanwhile, Mama, Papa, Hermano, y Hermana Raton, they pack up their picnic bag, they shake out the towel, their hearts are still racing like this. Oh, they get in the car and they drive home. And when they get home, they start feeling a little more calm. And they have their dinner. And they have their bath. And they get ready for bed. And Hermana y Hermana Raton, they go to bed. And Mama y Papa, they come in to give them a kiss goodnight. And Mama gives a kiss to Hermana. Noches. And then a kiss to Hermano. Noches. Y Hermano, he looks up at his mama and he says, Mama, can you tell me something? Mama says, of course, por supuesto. Can you tell me, how is it you were so brave? Ay, 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 mi niño. This is the value of having two languages, no? From now on, you must study harder because you never know when your second language will save your life. Tomorrow we get up, we study again. And that's the story from Cuba of La Raton Familia. And I dedicate that story to everyone who has studied more than one language and who has put in the hours and the time and the effort to learn that second language. More than that, I would like to dedicate it to everyone who's reclaiming languages too. There are so many cultures and communities who are reclaiming language, and what a difficult process that is. So I hope you enjoyed that story from Cuba. And I love the fact that we have very traditional stories that speak to our moments here and now, and the universal truth that those stories hold beyond our personal experience and connect us to so many others in the world. Just like this opportunity to connect with you via this storytelling platform. Thank you to the University of Hawaii and everyone who has worked so hard to put these events together. I am obviously speaking to you now with an Aussie accent, which also works in my Spanish as well. So my Spanish and my English is both a little bit sort of on the quirkier side of what you're probably normally able to hear. I grew up in Australia and my mum came from El Salvador. So I have 3 brothers here in Australia that we all grew up here. And my mum, coming from El Salvador, had certain ways of doing things. Now, one of the things that's a major difference between El Salvador and Australia is cows. Believe it or not, cows. Cow milk, dairy, all of that's kind of really not a thing when my mum was growing up. Cows are incredible creatures. Like if you think about their shape and their size, they've got an enormous body, and they've got these tiny little stick figure legs to hold the weight of that body. So cows need these lovely, gorgeous rolling hills, and a lot of grass and a lot of space. Now, that is not available for them in El Salvador. It is available for them in, Australia, particularly as English came over, and it was part of the culture that developed here was drinking cow milk. Now, my mum, she got here, she took one taste of this cow milk and disgusting. Ugh, it was terrible. So in El Salvador, most of your cheese, most of your dairy, things are from goats. And so mum was like, okay, I can't feed my poor children this horrible cow milk. Like, oh, this is just terrible. So mum, in our very, very suburban Sydney suburbs house with a Sydney suburbs size backyard, got us a goat, a she goat, so that we could have milk and we could have that flavour and that taste. So we didn't just have, like my mum's rural El Salvador, we didn't just have a goat, we had chickens, rooster, cats, dogs, and then mum brought in the goat. Now, I loved this goat, absolutely adored this goat. And anyone who's had anything to do with goats will know that they're not always the simplest creature to love. They are, a lot of people call them stubborn, but I think what they are truly is willful. They are the most willful creature. They're such a beautiful example of strength in decision making. And now this goat of mine was like all goats in that sense. And I named her Chiva because I was really, really creative, and Chiva is the word for goat in Spanish. Yeah. So I named my goat Chiva, and I took her for walks. I literally, in the suburbs of Sydney, would put a rope around my goat's neck and walk her. Now, one of the things about Sydney is we're a little bit smaller, and you do get, as a city, and you do get mountains and escarpment and things like that. And so we lived at the base of a hilly area. And so I would take my goat walking through the suburbs, through the streets, not the most common sight of the time, and then take her up into the hills. Now, I loved my goat, Chivita, and it was something I did all the time. And this one time I decided, I was about probably 8, 9 years old, and I decided to take her up the hill. And it was a little bit later than I would normally have gone for a walk. You know, the sun wasn't coming down, but it was heading towards that area. And I took Chivita for a walk up the hill. And we went a little bit further than normal too. It was just one of those days. And we got to this place that had a cave. And I could not believe that I'd never found this cave before. And if you're like me, you love caves. I love caves. So I had started going into this cave. And the cool thing about that is that when I pulled Chivita, she wanted to come into the cave, you know, so great. And then I've got my hands on all the sides of this cave. And Chivita, she wants to be with me. This is great. I go all the way as deep as I can until the cave is black. And Chivita, she's right next to me. This is wonderful. Chivita's being so placid. You know, and so I'm feeling this cave, and I've got the moisture and feeling where that goes, and that musty smell and the shapes in the rock. It was just amazing. But then I looked out and I saw at the entrance of the cave that the sun was actually coming down. I'd lost a lot of time in this cave, and it was time for me to go home. And so I turn around and I pull the rope, and I'm walking towards the edge of the cave. And I get to the very edge of the cave. One step I'm outside, one step I'm inside. And Chivita stops. I'm like, come on, Chivita. Nothing. I pull her rope. Nothing. I talk to her in my kitty little Chivita. Conmigo, no. Nothing. Chivita would not move a muscle. I'm like, oh my goodness, not now, Chivita. So I'm pushing her. I get behind her. I got the rope in my hand. I'm pushing her bottom. I'm like, "Rah!" Not even a flick of a muscle. She does not move. I've got the rope. I'm pulling. My feet are sliding out from under me. I'm kicking her. Chivita would not move a muscle. I've tried hitting, I've tried anger, I've tried yelling, I've tried sweet talk, I've tried one thing left to try. I'll sing to her. That'll get her. She likes a song. Everyone likes singing. So I start to sing. Salí, chiva, chivita, salí de este lugar. Salí, chiva, chivita, salí de este lugar. I look down. Not a movement in her body. I think, ay, chiva, chivita, come on. And then I look over and I see un lobo, a wolf, coming my way. And I say, hey, Lobo, can you do me a favor? Huh? Can you enter the cave and scare my goat so she'll hop out of the cave and I can get home with Chivita? El Lobo, he looks at me. He says, no. So I go back to singing. Salí, chiva, chivita, salí de este lugar. Salí, chiva, chivita, salí de este lugar. And then I see un palo, a stick. And I say, hey, stick, can you do me a favor? Can you hop up and hit the lobo so the lobo will hop into the cave and scare little Chivo? Chivo will hop out of the cave and come home with me. And the stick, he looks at me and he says, nope. So I go back to singing. Salí, chiva, chivita, sal de ahí, desde el lugar. Sal de ahí, chiva, chivita, sal de ahí, desde el lugar. And then I see a little spark of red. And I say, hey, fuego, fuego, fire. Can you do me a favor? Can you hop up and burn el palo? So el palo hop up and hit el lobo. Lobo hop up and scare el chivo. El chivo hop out of the cave and come home with me. Y el fuego sparks and jumps and says, no. So I go back to singing. Sal de ahí, chiva, chivita, sal de ahí, de este lugar. Sal de ahí, chiva, chivita, sal de ahí, de este lugar. And then I hear it. Can you hear it? I hear the water, a waterfall. And I say, hey, Awa, Awa, please, Awa, can you do me a favor? Can you hop up and put out el fuego? So el fuego will hop up and burn el palo will hop up and hit el lobo will hop into the cave and scare el chivo will hop out of the cave and come home with me. And the water is drifting coolly, beautifully, and says, no. So I go back to singing. Sal de ahí, chiva, chivita, sal de ahí, de ese lugar. Sal de ahí, chiva, chivita, sal de ahí, de ese lugar. And then I see a man. And I say, hey, hombre, can't you do me a favor? Huh? Can't you help me drink up all of the agua? So the agua will hop up and put out el fuego will hop up and he burn el palo will hop up and hit el lobo will hop up and scare el chivo come on with me. El man, he looks at himself, el hombre. He goes, nah. And he walks off. Oh, no. So I go back to singing. Sal de ahí, chiva, chivita, sal de ahí, de este lugar. Sal de ahí, chiva, chivita, sal de ahí, de este lugar. Just then I see the man's mom. It was getting so late, she had come looking for him. Huh? And I said, Mama, can you do me a favor? Can you order el hombre to drink up the water with me? So la agua will put out el fuego will hop up and burn el palo will hop up and hit el lobo will hop into the cave for el chivo, scare el chivo out, and I can go home to my mama. And la mamá, she looked at me and she said, por supuesto, of course I can. And she said, oy, niño, toma la agua, drink that water. So el hombre and yo, we're drinking the water until the water hops up and gets onto el fuego. El fuego sparks, and hops onto el palo burns up and hops up and pop onto el lobo. El lobo runs into the cave and goes, rah, and scares el chivo goes out of the cave and walks home with me. I am so happy that I sing this song the whole way. Sal de ahí, chiva, chivita, sal de ahí, de este lugar. Sal de ahí, chiva, chivita, sal de ahí, de este lugar. And that is the story of chivita. And this instrument I am using, have a guess if you can tell what it is. It's goat's toenails. I have quite a few of them. I brought them home from Peru. They're beautiful, aren't they? And, you know, if you really have a close look, they smell a bit like goat, which reminds me of chiva, which I like. Excellent. Okay, I have time for one more story. And this story I also have set between Australia and Latin America. This story is a well-known story, Regalo Perfecto. And I first heard it from a North American bilingual storyteller, Carrie Sue Aviar, and she is phenomenal. Do look her up. And I have set this story near where I live. Now, where I live is the first cliff off the ocean. And when you come off this cliff and down onto the ocean, we have the very typical beach line that you see of Australia, a little cove, very white sand, gorgeous, gorgeous beach. And then to the side, we have rock platforms. And these rock platforms are a gift of tides and sea anemones and seaweed and shells. They're the most amazing place to spend hours and moments just lost, receiving the gifts of salt water and sun and clouds and shapes. And we spend a lot of time with my children in this location down on the rock pools. So this story, I have placed two of my children into the story. So that's Nicola and Miguel. So one day, Miguel y Nicola despierte. They woke up on a beautiful morning. And Miguel looked over into Nicola and went, ¡Eh! Hoy es el cumpleaños de mi papá, de papá. Tiene algo para él. Pero la cosa es que no. Nicola had not looked for anything as a birthday present for their father. And Miguel had not gotten anything as a birthday present for their father. And the two of them looked at each other and they thought, pues, let's go outside, let's find something, eh? We need something amazing. We need something perfect. We need un regalo perfecto, ¿no? Yeah. So the two, Miguel and Nicola, they put on their clothes, they walked out the back door and they walked down the goat track to the beach. And you know, as they were coming out of the back fence and into the dirt path, they saw ovejas. Buenos días, Miguelito, Nicola, buenos días. Ay, 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 good morning, bees, good morning. ¿Qué estás haciendo, huh? What are you doing here? Pues hoy es el cumpleaños de mi papá y nosotros está buscando por un regalo perfecto. Today is the birthday of my father and today we are looking for un regalo perfecto. The perfect present. Well, yo puedo asistir, yo tengo miel. You can give him miel. Ay, honey, that's a good idea. But gracias, pero no gracias porque mi papá ya tiene miel. He has honey already. Pero yo sé, you can help us look. So Miguel y Nicola y los abejas, they looked and they looked and they looked. They searched and they looked and they looked and they searched and they searched and they looked and they looked. They walked on down to that rock platform. They searched and they looked and they looked until the rocks called up to them. Buenos días. ¿Qué estás haciendo? Buenos días, buenos días. Nosotros estamos buscando por un regalo perfecto para mi papá. We are looking for the perfect present. Yeah, and the bees are helping us. Well, I have the perfect place for searching. All these rock pools. Look what the tide brought in. Cool-up seeds, all the way from the Torres Straits. You can collect cool-up seeds and make him a shaker. Oh, mi papá, yeah, he loves shaker. He loves music. Pero he has one already. So, gracias, pero no gracias. Pero yo sé, puedo ayudar a buscar. You can help us look. So, Miguel, Nicola, los abejas, and the sea started looking and searching and searching and looking and looking and searching and looking. Looking and searching and searching and looking and looking and searching and looking until Miguel and Nicola saw up high an águila, a sea eagle the white tummy with the brown circling over and over these big, majestic creatures. And they stopped to look. And as they were watching, this águila came flying down. This águila stopped in front of them. This águila stood and looked straight at them and said, Buenos días. Ay, 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 buenos días, águila. It's a beautiful morning. Nosotros sabemos. We know. El regalo perfecto para tu papá. You know the perfect present for my dad? Please tell us. We want un regalo perfecto para él. What? Please tell us. Just then, el águila stretched out its wings, curled them in around the children, covered them up completely, and then moved its sharp beak down towards their face, and the smile on Miguel and Nicola's face got bigger and bigger and bigger. Oh, gracias, águila. Eso es el regalo perfecto para papá. They turned around and they started running. They were splashing. They had water all over them. The bees were following after, and they ran all the way through the back fence, all the way into the house. They said, Papa. They went into their papa's bedroom. He wasn't there. They went looking through the house, and there was their papa on the back veranda, drinking his café con leche. And they said, Papá, feliz cumpleaños. Oh, thank you, my children. You remembered. Yes, sí, papá. Y nosotros tenemos un regalo perfecto para ti. Come on then. Show me this perfect present. Adivinar. You have to guess. Okay. Papa, he looks around and he sees, los abejas, there are bees there. You have brought me honey, sweet, dulce, miel para mi café. Ponételo. No, Papa, it's not honey. We won't be putting honey in your coffee. Guess again. You got it wrong. Papa looks around again for clues. He sees that they are soaking wet. You have been to the rock falls. What has the tide brought in? Kulap seeds. You have brought me kulap seeds. We'll make another shaker. That would be wonderful. No, Papa, guess again. You got it wrong. Papa, he looks around. He looks up. He looks down. He thinks, I don't know. I give up. Yeah. And that's when Miguel and Nicola, they spread their arms out as wide as they could. They walked up to their papa. They wrapped their arms around him and they gave him un gran abrazo, a great big hug. And their papa, you're right. Eso es el regalo perfecto. This really is the perfect present. Gracias. So I'm hoping all of you out there, particularly in these COVID times, can give yourself un gran abrazo and give yourself the perfect present for this day. Thank you.
Thank you, Lillian. That was absolutely a beautiful story to end with. What can you tell us a little bit about your storytelling process? What it is that you look for when you're telling stories? What kind of stories you look for? You know, do they have to fit you perfectly, or what's the case?
Yeah, it depends. Hey, and I think it depends when too. Sometimes when in the beginning, I was very, very determined to look for Latin American stories, and and I'm still looking for now what or stories from El Salvador. I have this drive within me to connect to the culture that I haven't been able to grow up with. And even though I'm an Indigenous person who grew up off land, there's this calling in me to keep searching for that. So while I have learnt a bit of Spanish, it's not perfect. I'm also trying to learn now what, which is very, very difficult, but it's a wonderful process to try and get into the newer understanding of a story through the language. So it really just depends. If I have a reason for going into a certain situation, so I work in mental health centres, so I'll look for stories that include the seeing of visions, the hearing of voices. I'll look for stories that are the acceptance of difference in our lives, resilience. So I'll look for traditional stories. So sometimes I'm looking for a reason, or I'm looking for a truth that I need confirmed in my everyday life. So I think that there's situations we come up, and there are stories that can help us through those situations. So depending on what we're all going through, there are stories for that. So in general, I'm a lover of stories. So I tend to love the stories that I tell, and I have a huge capacity for love of stories, humans, animals, earth. So there's not that many stories that I don't like. If I don't like the story, it doesn't matter what the moral or the thing I'm looking for, I won't tell it. So fundamentally, I have to love it.
Did you find it difficult? You obviously are being multilingual when you tell the stories, that at least the ones you did today, which makes perfect sense, and you do it flawlessly. Um, do you find that difficult, or are there challenges to doing that?
Yeah, there are challenges. At the moment, I haven't been speaking Spanish at all, just because I'm not out in the community. Australia is only just coming out of lockdown now. So there was a couple of moments in there where I just went, oh, I've used the wrong the wrong conjugation of that word and stuff. So I have to, the difficulty is turning off my mind and letting it just flow.
Well, you didn't get any corrections in the chat, so
That's right. Well, I didn't look at
they
the
didn't.
chat. I'll get those messages later.
There you
Sorry.
go.
So that's something about it. I tend to rehearse things, like if it's Salviai or I have a song. So depending on what language I'm putting in, so I try to put in more than just Spanish. If I'm doing a song from Mali, I will try and find someone from Mali, research that story and the culture and how it really relates, so that I'm not just telling it from my perception of the world. I'm telling it with a piece of their language and with a connection and with a growth and respect in the story. So if it's a language that I don't know at all, or I haven't studied, I've studied a couple of languages, but then I will memorize and just listen to that
Okay.
again.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it comes across beautifully, and I want to thank you very much for being with us today and being part of our series here. It's your Thursday sometime in the morning, I think.
Yes, it's Thursday morning, 10 to 8 here.
Okay. Well, we got you up early. Sorry about that. Um, but we were so excited to have you be part of this. So everybody out there, please give a virtual round of applause for Lillian Rodrigues-Pang. And I want to remind you that tomorrow, please come back again, 10 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time. That's Thursday, October 28th. Debbie Thomason will be joining us. And then we'll be back again next week on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I want to thank our sponsors again, the University of Hawaii, the National Endowment for the Arts, the Hawaii State Foundation on Culture and the Arts, Kainoa Senior Services, the Hawaii Book and Music Festival, and you, our audiences. So everyone, please stay safe and aloha.